So now I'll talk about what the hell does Rafay do. I'm really happy that you guys allowed me to talk about the problem at this length and depth. So thank you very much. Again, my name is Hasib Badani. I'm the CEO of Rafay. I saw Alistair's look in the back saying, dude, you didn't do that. So that's me. And we'll talk about Rafay. Oh, my name is Hasib Badani. I'm the CEO of Rafay. Now we're going to talk about Rafay. Did I get that right, Alistair?
Now do it again without asking.
So we've been around a while. We've been around for 7 years now. If you go back and, you will not do this, but were you to go back and read my blogs about the things we've been working on, the words change because markets are different. And 2-3 years ago, we only talked about Kubernetes because Kubernetes seemed to be the only thing that people cared about. But the one thing we focused on since T0 in this company, in fact, before the company started, after I'd left my previous job, I wrote a blog called Introducing the Programmable Edge. So there's a phrase, programmable edge, that is used in the market. I own the trademark for it. So at some point, it'd be really fun to go just for fun, just sue a bunch of companies who use the phrase programmable edge in their content. Just for fun. We're not interested in money. And even in that blog, which was a long time ago now, the point was, how do you make it easy for developers to deploy a bunch of apps in a bunch of locations? So that was the point of programmable edges. Now, I used to work at Akamai, so edge was big for me because everything is about edge at companies like Akamai, at CDNs. But the problem was not just about edge. The problem was anywhere. How do you make it easy for people to consume compute? So we sell our product for the self-service consumption of compute to companies in those verticals. And we have been doing it successful for some time. And if you Google, you'll find a bunch of companies like Guardant Health and MoneyGram and others who use our platform today. When people engage with us broadly, stepping back from the GPU piece for a minute, right? Like, what do we do for them, right? So usually we meet companies who already have infrastructure, of course. We usually don't talk to companies who have nothing. They have infrastructure, they have some automation. And they've deployed something, Kubernetes, we have something. And when they have one team, couple of clusters maybe, everything is fine. Basic Terraform works fine. And then, man, the number of times I've been in conversation when people look at a product and they go, but I can do all this with Terraform, right? And I consistently ask them the question, tell me how long you've been working on this in this company. And they will always tell me less than 1 year. I'll call you in 6 months.
No,
it'll be different. The conversation will be different. And usually, those people have already left the company. And it's somebody else's problem now, right? But we engage with companies when they have built something, and the problem we help them solve is standardization. You have all kinds of environments, all kinds of users. How do you know the right version of Prometheus is running? It was a dumb question, right? It's not that easy, actually. Okay, there's a CVE for whatever, Nginx. How are you going to go across your Kubernetes clusters, across multiple environments, across multiple AWS accounts? How are you going to update it? If you have the right standardization and if you have the right thinking around automation, these are non-issues. Our customers can do this in minutes, not 3 months. And then we end up essentially helping our customers using software build a platform engineering function. This is what we've been doing before AI came about. We had never thought about AI. All we did was we said to our customers, hey, the platform that you will end up building using all this crossplane and Terraform and all these nice things is going to look like Rafay.
What's Rafay?
Rafay is the company I work at.
No, but why is it that? Why is it not? Is it Radiant? Does it stand for something? Is it someone's name? What is?
I got to tell you another story about Accenture.
Okay.
Now,
So one of the A's is for?
that's why we have 2 of them.
2 of them.
No. So Rafay, actually, the word means he who elevates. It's one of the names of God in Arabic, and it's my son's name. Hence the name of the company.
Got it.
Okay. But the abridged version of the story is that in the previous company I worked at, when we started it, we named it something that I thought was awesome. Everybody hated it. And then we had to change it for a very specific reason. And I had a domain called soha.io, S-O-H-A, very short, very simple. And our head of marketing thought, that's pretty cool, we'll use it. So is my daughter's name. So that company was, by the grace of God, quite successful. And and then we worked on the next one, and then there was an expectation.
There you go.
It worked.
Well done, Dad.
I just need to be home, right?
This is really interesting. The way I'm interpreting this graphic is that Rafay is whatever it is, platform, something as a service, whatever it is. I have to say, parenthetically, I have IDPs in mind here, so I really want to see like where you're going with this. But you are presenting it as a journey. Now, these are all outcomes. I'm not seeing what it is yet. I assume you're getting to that. But this is a journey whereby there's a staging to it. Stage one, standardizing environments, creating the blueprints, applying workflows to them. That seems like the first instantiation of self-service. Although
For ops people, but yes.
right, exactly. The ticketed self-service that that was so famous for so long.
Yes.
Still have to put in a ticket, but now the ops person is more efficient. Is this what your customers experience?
Yes.
Or is this imposed by Rafay, or is it both?
This is our product. So our product, on day one, you can go all the way to the right. Nobody does. At least the traditional customers, they don't do that. So usually they take steps because they already have something, right? So the first thing we come and help them do is but let's make it very specific, right? So let's say you run an environment which is AWS plus on-prem. You run, I don't know, Kubernetes in the cloud and VMs in your data center. So we provide, firstly, because you said IDP, an interface. Now, you can use Backstage for it, or if you can use ours, we don't care. We have a nice Backstage plugin as well. The interface is not important. The important part is the engine that you use to create the configuration and apply it on an ongoing basis, so that anybody in the company can come and say, I need an environment. And all the things that need to be true for that environment to happen. So let's think about that, right? I need to go first make sure that you're authenticated. So I need to talk to your IDP. So actual IDP, I don't mean the IDP you mentioned, the identity provider, right? And make sure you're in the right group. Okay, now I know. Then I need to figure out, okay, based on your identity and the group you belong into, when you say I need a cluster, actually I can't give you a full cluster because that's not the policy. I'm going to give you a virtual cluster on a shared environment because that's what the agreement is. You don't know this, my problem. System knows this. When I say my, I mean the system.
Yeah.
Now I create an environment for you, I create a service account for you, and I hand it over to you. But before I do that, you may have decided as a company that you want to have a ServiceNow ticket that goes to the boss. And the boss says, I agree, and then do everything. Yeah. And all of this automation is done on the Rafay platform. So Rafay platform understands the notion of Kubernetes. It understands what a VM is, so that when you say to me, I want to upgrade my 1,000 clusters and make sure they go from 1.33 to 1.34, our platform actually knows what that means. It's going to go do API deprecation checks beforehand, and if it finds that one of the clusters is going to not work out because your app's going to break, it's going to raise a ticket. Do something about it. It can actually go write a ticket in Jira. You go figure out, I'm going to keep going on the rest. Or you can say, no, stop. And you can set a policy for that. Or the environment that I just gave you, a virtual cluster, because you're a developer and we know you waste a lot of storage and whatnot, I'm going to take it away in 3 days because that's the policy. Every enterprise wants this. On top of Amazon, on top of on-prem, we sell that. It's a very good product, actually. It just looks way more attractive in the AI space because AI is so expensive and the hardware is very, very expensive. But the core notion of the platform, that you can deliver a true self-service consumption model for compute across environments, across teams. Like we have a large global consulting company that is not Accenture, 6th time now, who runs 192 BUs across the world on our platform. Nobody knows about each other. All of them have different policies. Everything just works. And when the cluster in a specific country breaks, the only people who can provide support for it are the people in that region, because we also manage the identity for them. Not that IDP, the other IDP. Everybody wants this. Everybody is building one of these. Every enterprise has a platform engineering team that is building this right now. And our recommendation to them is, I mean, we're all smart people, we can all build stuff. It's just really expensive to build. It takes forever. Don't build that. But use it, deliver the service that your developers are looking for. Don't waste their time. I ask the following question a lot in large companies I talk to. If you had to pick a number, red finger in the air, what percentage of time do your developers waste on infrastructure stuff? understanding Terraform, subnet to subnet connectivity, developers. I don't mean ops guys or developers. You know what most people tell me the number is? You guys want to take a guess?
20%.
20%. Very nice. 20%. Now, if you have 1,000 people in a company, which is not a big number in most large enterprise, 200 people are doing what? Nothing.
Well, it's worse than that.
Sorry?
It's worse than that.
Yeah, it's probably worse than that.
Worse.
Most people say,
No, I don't
say
mean that it's
50.
higher than 20%.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm saying that they're spending 20%, but for for a good ultimate user experience, they really should spend 40% based on the platform that they have. It's just they don't want to. So they spend 20% and they have a buggier, a less reliable platform. So that's what I mean by it's worse than that.
You're saying, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 40%.
Yeah, if they don't, developers don't want to deal with it, and they deal with it as much as or as little as they can, and that comes maybe to 20%.
So the first time I ever asked this question was directed to a gentleman. His title was Head of Developer Experience at a very large F50 bank.
Yeah.
And he said, 20-25%.
Mm-hmm.
So that bank has 6,000 developers.
Yeah.
So 25% of 6,000 is a big number. And on average, those people fully loaded, right? Benefits and whatnot, they're probably making 250 fully loaded. But 250 times that number is a lot of money. You could pay me like $2 million and we'll call it a day, man. Let's go, right? So this is the conversation we have a lot, right? Hey, you're going to build this anyway. We all agree on the premise. You're going to build this anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I'm still trying to work out. I get that it's a product, but looking at your customer journey here, how much of this is actual professional services?
We don't do any PS. So we provide.
It's like automated standardization of the environment.
Let's go to the product. Maybe this is a good time to actually log in and talk about it. Okay. So this is my environment. So there's like literally nothing on right now. So if you see a bunch of things that say red or whatever, it's because we're cheap.
No.
But the idea is that, okay, first and foremost, you're going to help, you need clusters. So our platform will help you set up environments. So the platform basically will tie into your vSphere environment or your AWS environment, just, IAM roles, whatnot, right? And we actually help you build clusters. Now I'm using the UI for this because it's visual. Please do know that, yes, we do have a Terraform provider for everything that you can do on our platform. It's public. You can look at it. Or there's a very nice Swagger docs. If you like APIs, you can do that as well. It's very extensive. It takes a while to scroll through it. And there's a nice CLI as well. So if you're using, I don't know, Jenkins, right? So you can actually tie the automation into your Jenkins pipelines if you like. So everything should be automated and everything is backed in Git. In fact, not only do we back in Git in our platform, there's an actual pipeline concept. So everything that we will do for you, including starting the AWS account, setting up, like laying down the foundation, which really means a VPC with 2 subnets, NAT, gateway, everything set up, it's all backed in Git so that you can do this again and again and again. And based on the team member who joined, they may say, I need an environment in Amazon. But what does that mean? For you, it could mean an AWS account. For you, it could mean something entirely different. And the platform understands it based on your identity. So all of these configurations, sir. So I remember last time I did this presentation, people used to have their name cards in front of them. So I could actually, instead of saying, sir, ma'am, I would call you.
Who I am. Brian.
Brian, yes.
I'm easy. I'm Guy.
I said who I am. Like, am I supposed to know?
Who I am.
I'm Guy. Very easy. Guy.
Not that guy.
You can call me that guy.
Okay, this guy.
You can call me that guy.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. But that's the idea, right? So, and we can walk through that. I'm sure we will a little bit more as we talk more. But the experience end of the day should be all of the things we've discussed, the automation. So somewhere on the left, you'll find things that the platform does that will solve the problem you're trying to solve for. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build these, abstractions is the wrong word, these automation components that come together to solve a problem. And then it becomes repeatable, reusable, so that you don't need 50 experts.
But strictly above the infrastructure automation.
Strictly above the infrastructure.
You're leaving the infrastructure.
or something.
Yes, sir. So now in the platform, we can help you bring up a bare metal server as well. That is not a big use case for us.
Well, no, I just mean that whatever management scheme you're using, IAC plus AI, agentic, like there's all kinds of this newfangled stuff, your container management platform, whatever it may be, that's below the line here. Rafay is above the line. I mean, it's almost telling a platform engineering teams to stick what they want to do, which is create this incredibly resilient platform and pretend that the application doesn't exist, because that's my take on what they want to do. Meanwhile, the developers want to pretend the platform doesn't exist and they just want to code a whole bunch.
And they meet in the middle.
And yeah, and this is the dividing line between the two.
That's a great way to think about it. Absolutely,
Great.
yes. In fact, to that end, right? So where do I have this example?
I have a very cynical view of everybody involved in this whole enterprise.
That nihilism is
what
why
makes it
IT is
the
what it is, my friend, right?
Yeah.
He's referring.
Yeah, I picked it up from Andy over here.
in the room specifically.
He's
So
nodding.
here's an example. So this is my favorite
Right,
example. It took us a long time to get here. By the way, you're looking at a portal, which is a Rafay portal. We have sort of this notion of three personas as an aside. You see infrastructure, PaaS Studio, and developer hub. So infrastructure is, people like us, right? So like IT guys who kind of set stuff up, right? The PaaS Studio is actually a product manager because, and I use that phrase loosely, they may decide what to sell to whom.
Sure.
Right, and the price and whatnot. So we actually have a layer for that. And then the developer is a developer, right? So as a developer, I may have access to, get the zoom out of the way, a catalog where, depending on my needs, my catalog will say different things. So there's all very, like there's a rights management concept in our platform. So I will decide what Brian gets versus this guy gets versus that guy gets, right? That joke is not going to end today. But as a developer, if, let's say, in my entire purpose in life is to write Java code, and my company has a framework, we write apps here, Spring, React, MySQL, or whatever combination. You should be able to package an environment where I can write my code and I can test it. I just need a test bed. What does it take for me to get a test bed? A lot in many companies. But what I should be able to do is I should be able to tell the system, my code is here. And everything else is magic, including at the end of this, it's going to give you an endpoint, which is going to be a routable endpoint. It's going to say, here's an app, go test it. Everything else will work. Now, to get there, what happened, right? So there probably is a shared infrastructure somewhere where we created a new namespace for this guy with the right limits. On the namespace, we created probably vCluster because this guy probably has an operator to deploy. On top of which we set up, okay, I need a database because he's going to do some testing, loaded up some test data because otherwise what is the point? Then I set up an ingress controller because I can, I want to test this app. Or I need a DNS entry because otherwise how will I get to it? Then I run an endpoint. Magic.
So y'all must have a lot of competitors because this sounds like what a lot of people do already.
So we find that our biggest competitor is people building this in-house, ma'am. And I know your name is Gina because it says on the screen. But so we find that people are building this, right? So there's a lot of these different, lots of companies do a lot of things, right? So there's a lot of different people doing components of this, right? So there's companies who do the front end, right? So the IDPs are the internal developer platform companies that provide TypeScript-based front ends, which is pretty cool. People will have pipeline implementation. Somebody will have something else, right? And our perspective was at the end of the day, people want to deliver an internal platform, and we're going to take our time and we're going to build one. So it took us really long to build it. Yes, but sorry, go ahead.
So you have so what you're saying is Rafay is an IDP, but it also has the IAC components on the back end.
So IDP is a I don't know, 2-3% of the problem, right? Because that's just the front end, yeah? The fact that the platform understands the tooling, it understands the application, it understands the identity, it understands the cluster itself, it understands the fact that there's inventory here, and I'll talk about that momentarily. It understands what an app means, right? We just walked through an app, right? It understands what that means. It will understand, for example, that I need to go set up a DNS entry, and at some point it understands that I need to create a ServiceNow ticket. All of those things happen in a platform engineering organization, right? And we are helping them build these environments. So the phrase that perhaps could be used for this is environments, I guess.
So question on that.
But are you?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, but are you're actually trying to eliminate a lot of those, right? So you're trying to. We can do your IDP because And a lot of other companies do the same thing that are building the IDPs. They do understand all of those different requirements. And it seems like, and you guys were known for Kubernetes for a while as being the
Yes, ma'am.
Kubernetes man. Well, so you understand
Mhm.
the back end of it as well. So you can do those declarative things that obviously this platform is doing because
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
I need
absolutely.
this output. So what I'm asking is, what are you replacing and what do you do different than all the rest of this pretty crowded space right now?
Pick 2 companies that come to mind, then we'll talk about them.
I think there's the one I'm thinking of doesn't really do the IDP side, but there's
Anybody?
Platform 9 and Cast AI.
Okay, I'll talk about both of them. Anybody else?
System initiative.
I have not heard of that.
We'll talk about it.
Morpheus.
Okay.
Well, we've
Okay, I'll talk
already
about
had,
Morpheus too. Okay.
we've already had some discussion just among us. Is vRealize.
vRealize. Okay, all right. So in the Kubernetes management space, I would say that the company that matters the most. So let me walk through each of them, right? So Platform 9 has now mostly stopped doing Kubernetes now, right? So they've gone to back to the roots, OpenStack. Makes sense. They were pretty good at OpenStack, and there's a need for that in the market right now with GPU clouds, and their Kubernetes was, it took a while. It's not an easy problem to solve. Cast AI is solved on the cost management part of this, right? So they help you reduce the cost of your infrastructure, which is a slightly different problem. System initiative, I don't know. vRealize, or broadly speaking, VMware, right? So their strategy, of course, vSphere is vSphere, the best in the world, nobody can compete, right? Their Tanzu strategy has not been great. I hope I don't get into trouble when I say this, but I've never met a happy Tanzu customer. And you're laughing because I think you're agreeing. He's nodding. And of course, we all kid, but it's a hard problem to solve. It is. I'm telling you from experience. Making Kubernetes work well is a really, really hard problem to solve.
Okay, and actually one of the advantages I can spot right away over vRealize is that you actually are generating the code, which is you can then you put into a
yes, sir. We generate the code. Yeah.
source code control.
In fact, our customers can start with the UI, and we can actually auto generate the code, and you can write it back to Git. So you can tell your boss, yes, everything is IAC. We absolutely do that as well.
Wait, I missed that. So you're generating infrastructure as code. You're generating the Terraform code?
Yes, we can. A lot of people start with it because they already have it. We can consume yours, and we can generate it as well.
So how would this compare with an OpenShift, where we diagram?
So when I said, tell me a name, I was thinking OpenShift, by the way. So OpenShift is amazing. It's amazing. It's a great product. I think for all the right reasons, Red Hat has done such an amazing job, right? The problem with OpenShift is, again, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but very expensive, very complicated. Very, very expensive, very majority So for a bunch of time, and Gina made the point that we were kind of known as a Kubernetes company. So when we still are, majority of our revenue is Kubernetes. Vast majority is just Kubernetes management. And those are customers that usually were OpenShift customers at some point. And the reason why they talk to us is because on top of OpenShift, they need many other things to solve the entire problem. So we tell them, hey, we'll do all these other things. And oh, by the way, the Kubernetes distribution in Rafay is free. So we don't charge for the Kubernetes distribution. OpenShift is not free. So we tell them, we are a management platform. If you want to continue to use OpenShift as the distribution, no problem. We'll work with that too. We'll work with EKS and Amazon, and yes, TKGS from Tanzu, whatever. Why does it matter? Kubernetes is the engine. Why does it matter? Let's focus on the automation on top. So we would sell them the automation, and we tell them, oh, by the way, we also provide a distribution. It actually is pretty good. And it's free. People would replace.
Thanks.
So what about Rancher and
Rancher's great. They haven't really done great work in a few years. They were the best.
Mirantis?
Oof.
So Mirantis's OpenStack implementation is amazing. Their Cordant platform is very good. It's a great automation solution. And we have not yet seen them in the market. That just means me, one person. I can only talk to so many people in a day. But of course, this is my space. I know every vendor. I can tell you exactly in private also what I think more. But no, we know them. But OpenShift, that's the point you made. Red Hat has done an amazing job in this market.
So in Rafay, will we say that it's mostly a declarative model underneath, right? That's the code you're generating, that's the code, and that you're managing and pushing the infrastructure. Are you already running into the shift from the declarative model into something else? beyond let's stop writing scripts, let's stop writing instance database tables, and driving real infrastructure in that way?
So end of the day,
And
everything
I'm
has.
talking about like digital twinning,
Yeah, totally. No,
model type
clear.
driven
Yeah,
infrastructure.
clear. So end of the day, everything has to be IAC, right? Because otherwise, it's really hard to kind of figure things out when things break.
I don't know.
I need to see a diff, right?
We'll just define
Yeah.
semantics on
Yeah.
IAC.
Look, much like all of our friends in the community, we also built an agent. Very cool. You should try it. It'll tell you how to generate configurations. Pretty cool. But most of our day-to-day actual hands-on customers, they're pretty good at this, man. You know, the real problem we solve, the real problem is not replacing 50 people. The real problem is most companies, there's 1 or 2 people who know everything, and the rest do not. Not because not because they cannot. It's because there's like 500 things to do in a company, but 2 or 3 people just know everything. So with a tool like this, you can make everybody else do that job, because those 2 or 3 become the sort of the configuration masters, if you will, right? They do all the stuff in our platform. There's always a Brian, right? Okay, this is the guy, right? He's the Rafay admin. We have large financial services companies with like 2 or 3 guys on our platform. Everybody else is a consumer. The ops guys, when they need to deploy a new AWS account, they go to our portal, they press a button, everything is magic. But because the core blueprints were built by those 2 or 3 guys. And those 2 or 3 guys, although the CCOE could be 20 people, there's like one guy doing the talking. That guy. We're making it such that guy's thinking and ideas get proliferated across an enterprise with guardrails. And I just brought up a blog. This is a blog about Rafay on NVIDIA's website. And I was going to talk about this diagram later anyway, but this is a great time to talk about it. This is on NVIDIA's website. This is Rafay's sort of architecture. You see Kubernetes anywhere on the screen?
Yes.
Little thing on the bottom in the middle. This is NVIDIA's website. Just to be clear, this is NVIDIA's website where I pulled this up because I couldn't find a copy of that in my own environment, so I just pulled it from their website. I remember that. I go to this link a lot. So the blue layer at the bottom, yeah? That's EKS, OpenShift, whatever, vCenter, etc. And can we help with that? Yes. We don't charge for it. We're the little guy in this market. We had to come up with creative ways to find a foothold. And the way we found a foothold is we said, you want to bring your own blue layer? Do it. No problem. We do this too. We do it really well. But 2 years ago, nobody would believe us, right? Or 3 years ago, whatever, right? Now they do. Our customers use our stuff. They don't use these other products. But 2, 3 years ago, we couldn't start there. So we said, okay, what is the problem with this market? Governance and control. Because without this, you cannot run a platform engineering organization. So now I'll use an example from the AI world to make a point, right? So let's say somebody says, I have 100 GPUs, 104 GPUs. Nobody's got 100 GPUs. Who's using how many? Most people have no idea. They don't. Once they give somebody access to a server, SSH access, right, mostly, they don't even know how to take it back. What a simple problem. Okay, we should do inventory management. What a simple problem. We should have a layer where we can do this sort of triaging. Reservation system. Well, we have one of those, essentially, or in effect, right? Because people don't think in terms of reservation, they think in terms of, I need something now. And we tell them, hey, by the way, sorry, there's nothing available right now. Versus Kubernetes will tell you in 40 minutes because eventually your deployment will fail. It's a very bad experience. You should have an inventory management system. So we started building a governance layer. So this layer works on top of, like, for the longest time, our primary business was people would go to like Amazon or Azure or GCP and use Kubernetes there, and then they would have these challenges. So we were getting business from AWS, for example.
Down one layer, where would you say the majority of your customers start? Are they starting on bare metal? Are they starting on VMware? Are they starting?
Are they starting on something really heterogeneous, if not out of control, so to speak? Like,
so hybrid is our sweet spot. Mm-hmm. So definitely, so it'll be vSphere on-prem on Nutanix, a little bit of Nutanix, mostly vSphere, right? And in the cloud, it's going to be EKS, AKS, GKE for Kubernetes, right? Or they just want to consume like a landing zone, for example, right? But they want a consistent experience across multiple environments.
I feel like that's almost like, Brian, that's almost the deal, is like there's some of these organizations doing a lot of things all over the place, for many of them for a long time. And so the cost of trying to make it more consistent from business unit to business unit or agency to agency or whatever is just really high.
It is high, but then we threw GPUs into the mix, and that effed up everything.
See, 2 years ago,
And if we're trying to optimize for GPUs and
hey man,
AI,
don't knock my business, man.
this is the meat here, right?
No,
How do we
GPUs make it
these
more
GPUs
fun because
available?
it's limited capacity,
Right.
right? So CPUs are effectively infinite, right? You'll always get some compute in the cloud till you keep pressing EIP button and eventually run out. But GPUs are definitely very finite and non-fungible in some cases because their models are different.
And in my experience, looking at the top row, to the left is easy. When it's a single server, small and medium are easy to deliver. The minute you cross servers and have to make sure that the networks are working, functional, all the back end, and then the libraries on top of that, that's where I find a step function, and so many people fall down.
Let's talk about that. So, sorry, completely off script, and I'm loving this. So our docs are pretty good. It's just docs.rafay.co. It's very extensive and extensive enough that I usually forget where things are. Multi-tenancy. So here's an interesting diagram, right? Because you made the point that doing this inside a server is not a big deal, right?
Right.
Okay, let's call it a single node cluster or a cluster on the right-hand side. And that could be the green sort of R thing, of course, is Rafay. Then you see OpenShift to the point made earlier, and EKS, and God knows what else could be there. For me to deliver a truly shared environment experience says that no one developer can affect another developer. So no lateral escalation allowed, but I want a good experience and I want to keep my costs low. I don't want to give everybody a whole cluster. Too expensive. Most people run like a pod. Why would I give them even a one node? Doesn't make any sense. All of the controls that you see on the screen have to be true. Otherwise, we don't believe you have a secure environment. Now, we do this out of the box. It just works, right? And we use this slide a lot, or this diagram a lot, because we're making the point that, hey, Mr. Customer, look, whether we work together or not, please make sure you have all of these things in place. Now, for you to do this, Mr. Customer, you have to understand all these things. Network segmentation, number 6, right? kubeOVN is actually pretty cool, right? So it's like a VXLAN implementation inside a cluster. It's really cool. You gotta understand this now. You've done BGP peering, right, Mr. Customer? Because you got to do this now, right? So it's an eBGP implementation, right? So now, okay, so all these configurations happen. Now, the problem is these technologies add up, right? Like individually, I can do anything as an IT engineer. I can do anything. But the problem is I got to do 50 things now. I don't have time. And my team is limited, right? I have 3, 4 guys who can really do this. I got to move fast, right? And those are the people, right? With the clarity that my project, my goals are very large and I don't have enough time. They seem to like our product because they see this as a multiplier effect of their own brain. But this is an example of what happens inside a cluster, not across, because across, you're right, there's a much bigger problem. I completely forgot where I was before this, by the way.
So
Governance layer.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. What type of network policies do you handle inside of this?
When you're thinking network policy, are you thinking more so in terms of east-west or lateral escalation, sir, or what are you thinking?
I was thinking, well, east-west and outbound.
East-west, north-south. Okay. So I'll just go back to the picture for a second. So in this specific implementation, right? So the app running at the top is running in a vCluster. We like it a lot. vCluster we think is a pretty cool technology because the issue is if you just give somebody a namespace, even if you do all the security, if you just have role binding versus cluster role binding, you cannot deploy an operator. And most of these new packages that you find now for AI, they all happen to be packaged as operators, which means you can't deploy it. Which means you need your own cluster, which means vClusters are pretty good solutions. Now, vCluster is running on a core implementation layer that we wrote.
Okay.
So we enforce this. So this is not a Kubernetes construct. We came up with this idea of enforcing quotas across your multiple environments. Underneath, we essentially are. So this is a Calico plus isovalent construct. We sort of kind of chain isovalent with Calico somehow to do the sort of this becomes
not familiar with either one, but go ahead.
So Calico, most people seem to use it. It's, by the way, it's all IP tables oriented, right? Some level, right?
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah, we all,
That's enough to know. Okay.
right? It's a CNI, right?
Mhm.
But the more important thing is at the bottom, right? So the network segmentation happening. So we want to make sure that a tenant inside this cluster, when their traffic is only being seen by their traffic. So that's a VXLAN implementation. That's an overlay.
Okay, that was actually the question that I was going for, and that answered it perfectly. Thank you.
Yeah, and of course, then there's an egress, which is standard egress. So for that, we use
okay.
Nginx, but with egress management.
No, I just want to make sure there actually was a private network
Yes, sir.
for the cluster.
Yeah, I mean, just doing IP tables is not good enough. There has to be an overlay. Otherwise, this is not secure. Right? Because the goal is both ways, right? So yes, traffic should go in and out, but sort of lateral escalation protection is really key. So you should not be able to even figure out the IP addresses, because if you're running on the same network with IP tables, that's not secure enough.
Okay.
Right. So all right, going back. So I hope this gives you a sense of, like, this is an introductory section. If you guys would like, and we would really appreciate it if we can do this with you, right, individually or in subgroups, we'd love to show you a 2-hour demo of what's possible. Because in your own sort of day jobs, you may find value in it, or you may be able to give us feedback. We'd really appreciate it if you're open to it. It'd be very nice. That's pretty good. But we've discussed this already, right? So our experience has been people start in the middle of the screen. Journeys in companies start in the middle of the screen, not at the left of the screen. People just start writing code because Terraform, enough modules are available. So I've already, there's a bunch of open source code available in the registry, so let me start there. And most people don't think in terms of, I have multiple people in my organization, multiple teams, and there's similarities and differences. And they don't start there, and they do that later. And usually that's generation 2 in a company. First team is left, right? And then for whatever reason, I don't know, luck of the draw maybe, right? We meet a lot of those teams, right? Because they have a significant pressure on them to solve a problem. So then, they hear about us from AWS or Gartner or whoever, and they'll say, if you're working on this level of automation, Rafay can probably help you.
So does Rafay also have the ability to ingest one of these from someplace else?
We have built tools to that end. It's always a little bit of a effort, but yes, we have built tools where you can show us your Terraform and we'll try to do something with it. Or a question was asked about Rancher. We'll take your Rancher config and we'll convert it to something non-Rancher or more generic in our world, or OpenShift for that matter. So we do those things, and we've built those tools over time. I would not call them part of a platform, but definitely these are tools in our on our tool chains.
Okay.
To solve the problem with the customer.
Nice.
So you all agree with this, given this conversation. By the way, the data on the right, it's actually real data. It's not made up, right? So our CS team seems to obsess over these numbers. So they ask these questions all the time. And I'm pretty sure our customers are pretty blunt. I don't think they lie. We ask them specific questions, of course, but it's actually quite amazing, right? Once you have the right standardization in a company, the amount of time that you get back is actually it's incredible, right? And then people realize, well, we were wasting a lot of time on a lot of stupid stuff. So this list, of course, the deck is available to you. At your leisure, please look at this. This is not intended to be an exhaustive list of features. When this slide was put together, a few of us sat around on a whiteboard and said, what are the most important things we can put in without the font getting too small? And one more box would make the font too small, so we decided to stop here. But it's a pretty exhaustive list.
Wait, so hold on, back up just 1 second. So standardization has two meanings here. But one of the things that I've been noticing, is, including in a lot of the conversation that we're having with each other while you're presenting, is
there's a side channel going on and I'm not on it.
Of course. It's to put it bluntly, there's kind of this tension between DIY and off the shelf. I don't sense that Rafay is like completely off the shelf, nor should it be. But a whole lot of this stuff is already being done, including by folks in this room, as well as by other vendors. At least parts of it, maybe there's a Venn diagram and they don't all completely overlap. So when you talk about standardization, I feel like what you're really saying is why invest in someone else providing you with this environment orchestration platform and managing it for you? Why do that? Because standardization also means, using standards like Kubernetes or
and your standards, right?
YAML or whatever. Well, okay, yeah, that's right. So it has three meanings. I missed that one.
That's an interesting way to think about the problem.
I mean, ultimately, you're coming in and saying, like, these are things you all wanted to do, or you may be in the process of doing. I don't think there are many organizations that have already done a lot of this, whether it's using vCloud Director or vRealize or any of these other tools that have been around for a while, or using a competitor or doing it almost all homegrown, like you said. That's my experience as well, by the way, is that most shops of sufficient size have slowly built up some kind of a hydra, many-headed monster of infrastructure orchestration with a whole lot of people who all know exactly how to do those little things that they know how to do, and you're potentially disrupting that.
So yes. So what do we do about it? Right. So day one, we can't come in and say everything you've done is wrong, because obviously it's not wrong. It's all great, right? You've done great work. It's become big, right? So where do we insert ourselves? Where does standardization start? There's a very simple step we may take with a customer who has a bunch of Terraform, right? So we have this concept called environment templates in our platform. I'll just pick a simplistic one. Yeah, why not? So, okay. So you have some code, resources. Each resource is essentially a Terraform blob. And you know what? Let's do something very simple. Let's add a ServiceNow hook. So before you launch your Terraform code, we're going to ask your boss, should you do this? Number one use case.
Makes sense.
Simple thing, right? Number one use case. Where's the schedules? Okay. All right. You have a bunch of developers wasting a bunch of resources. What if every time they bring it up, it's going to go away in 7 days? Number two use case. We can do many, many things. I'm just picking some of the fun use cases, right? The point is, we have to deliver value immediately. I can't sit here and say, for 1 year, we're going to take your code and translate it to our world. Nobody's going to buy a product. Never going to happen, right? Now, AI use cases are different, right? And we'll talk about that. So AI is very simple because it's all greenfield, right? So AI is very, very easy to sell to because they have nothing. It's all new. And I'll talk about that for sure. But this part is really important because, and the reason why I'm spending time on this is because without these foundational technologies that we have built in this company, we could never have solved the AI problem anyway. Because without this, how can you run a cloud? Because I'm telling my customers, you're going to run a cloud. You're going to be a CSP on Rafay's back, which means you got to have all these things in place. Now, think about a cloud, right? So in a large enterprise, if I have these policies where I can do the lateral escalation protection that we discussed earlier, right? We can do upgrade of 1,000 clusters in a shot, or set policies to tie into your internal controls like ServiceNow, Jira, or whatever, or set policies to remove environments or move environments, or and we looked at GitOps before, right? So we can do staggered updates of things, etc. So all of these things are now possible on top of what you've built. And the next step we take is we say, hey, so how do you build your clusters again? And then we start taking that back, because the next time you have an upgrade coming up, we say, hey, if you're going to move from here to here anywhere, because most people, when they upgrade in the industry, by the way, they don't actually do in-place upgrades. They do blue-green deployments. They build brand new clusters and they move everything over. You're going to do that anyway. Why don't we make the green cluster be Rafay? It's free. And we take the Kubernetes. And then we say, oh, by the way, KVM, we have a pretty cool KVM solution. Free. We only focus on the governance layer. Because to me, everything else is free, should be free. I really believe this. I think Kubernetes should be free. Nobody should charge for it. You should pay me for the policies and all, because I got to make money, right? But Kubernetes should be free. Nobody should make money on it, including Red Hat, to the prior point. Very expensive. But these tools now come together for me to deliver an actual cloud-like experience. And if it's okay with you guys, I'd love to sort of show you a simplistic demo of what people can do on the AI side of the house, given the tools that we have. But before I do that, I just want to make sure, Is there any area here that you'd like me to dig into? Think platform engineering. Think big picture platform engineering problems.